In answer to Mr. Superstition, I only said this, that in the worship of God, a divine faith is required, but there can be no divine faith without a divine revelation of the will of God. Whatever, therefore, whatever is put into the worship of God that is not of a divine revelation is but of a mere human faith, and there is no profit to be gained by that. In answer to Mr. Pigthank, I said that the prince of this town, his attendants, with all their rabble, are more fit for being in hell than in this town and country, and may the Lord have mercy on my soul.
You see this man who has made such a fuss in our town. You have heard what these good men have said against him, which he himself has admitted is true. The decision is yours now. To save his life or to hang him.
The 12 men who had Faithful's life in their hands spoke in a low tone. The blind man said,
This man causes division.
no good, said,
First I see.
Malice said,
I hate the very look of you.
Live Loose said,
I too. For you know what? He would be sure to play my ways.
Hetty said,
Hang him! Hang him!
High Mind said,
Low wretch.
Enmity said,
I long to crush him.
Liar said,
He is a rogue.
Cruelty said,
Death is too good for him.
Hate Light said,
Let us kill him so that he may be out of the way.
Implacable said,
Not to gain the whole world. I make peace with him. So, let us sentence him to death.
and so they did. In a short time, he was led back to the place where he came from, there to be put to the worst death that could be thought of. For the whip, the sword, and the stake brought Faithful to his end. And as for Christian, he was free for now. And there came to Christian one called Hopeful, who came as a result of what he had seen and heard of Christian and Faithful. So, while one lost his life for the truth, a new man was born from his death to walk the same way with Christian. And Hopeful said there were more men at the fair who would take their time, but would eventually come to.
Come, good hopeful, let us walk on the grass of the path by the meadow.
But what if it's the wrong way?
How can it? Look, does it not go by the verge?
Well, I don't know.
And so they set off through the field, but they had not gone far when they saw a man in front of them. Vain Confidence was his name. He told them that the path led to the celestial gate, and so the men, he went first. But night came and it grew dark, so dark that they lost sight of their guide, who, as he did not see the path in front of him, fell into a deep pit and disappeared.
Where are we now?
Who could have thought that this path would lead us wrong?
I had my doubts and I told you so.
Good friend, I agree that I brought you out of the wrong path. Out of the right path. We're on the wrong path now.
Say no more. No doubt it will all end well.
We must not stand like this. Let's try and go back.
And then they heard a voice say, "Set your heart to the highway.
Okay,
Turn again, the way you did before."
that's that way.
But by this time the stream around them was deep from the rain that fell, and to go back did not seem safe. Yet they went back, though it was so dark and the stream ran so high that once or twice it could have drowned them, nor could they with all their skill get back that night. And so they found shelter from the rain and slept till the morning. Now, not far from the place where they slept was Doubting Castle, the lord of which was Giant Despair, and it was on his ground that they now slept. And there Giant Despair found them, and with a gruff voice he woke them.
You are trespassing. This is my property.
Oh, no, 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 no.
They didn't have much to say, as they knew they were at fault. So Giant Despair frog marched them to a dark, foul cell in the fortress. And here they were kept for 3 days, without light, food, or drink. And in all that time, no one to ask after their welfare. Giant Despair had a wife whose name was Diffidence, and she told him to give them a good beating. So he took a big stick from a crab tree and went down to the cell and beat them like dogs. They could not move on the floor, and they spent all that day in sighing and crying. And he came again the next day and found them in pain from the beating. He told them that since there was no chance of release, the only option would be to put an end to their own lives.
For why should you choose to live in all this misery?
Friend, what shall we do? The life we now lead is worse than death. I feel that the grave would be less sad to me than this cell.
No, 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 no. Truthfully, Christian, our case is a sad one. For to die would be better than live in this. But we have to remember what the master of the land to which we go said. He said, "Thou shalt not kill." So if we kill ourselves, we kill our souls. Listen, you speak of ease in the grave. But if we kill ourselves, we won't get to heaven. Come on now. You know, don't think that all of the power is in his hands. No, we can make this. Don't worry, we can do this.
By saying this, Hopeful changed the tone of Christian's mind. Well, that night, the giant went down to the cell to see if they were still alive, and in truth they were barely alive. For from their wounds and starvation they could do no more than just breathe. And when Giant Despair found they were not dead, he fell in a rage.
You are going to wish you have not been born.
No more.
And at this, they shook with fear, and Christian fainted, but then he came to.
No, listen, we've come this far, okay? Just bear up. Remember how you dealt with Napoleon? Did he frighten you? Remember what happened when you went through the valley of the shadow of death? Okay, all the things that you experienced and went through, and now to come this far? Listen, I'm in this place just like you, okay? And you're a far stronger man than me. Giant Despair dealt his blows upon me as well as you. So, if it's only for shame's sake, let us stand firm.
That reminds me, that song that says, Father, alone, no other.
That night, Giant Despair's wife asked him,
Will the two men give in?
No, they choose to persevere and will not kill themselves.
In the morning, I want you to go and get those men out. Take them down to the garden, show them the graves of those whom you have put to death, and let them listen. Wait. I want you to beat them to death.
So Giant Despair took them to this place.
In 10 days' time, you shall be thrown into here if you do not give in. Go back to your cells. Back to your cells.
Fool that I am.
What? What now?
I think those men live in hope of picking the cell.
Do you think so, my dear?
I think so. You need to check it out.
Well, in the morning, I'll go and search them.
Now, on that night, as Christian and Hopeful lay in the cell, they fell on their knees to pray and knelt till morning broke. When Christian gave a start,
Fool that I am.
What now?
I lie in this dark cell, like this, when I could walk free.
What do you mean?
I have a key
A key?
in my pouch, which is a key of promise that I feel sure will open the lock of all the doors of Doubting Castle.
Go ahead, come on, let's use it.
and so Christian put it in the lock, and when the bolt sprang back, the door flew wide, and Christian and Hopeful both came out. And when they got to the yard door, the key opened it as well. But the lock of the last strong gate of Doubting Castle was difficult, but it did turn at last, though the hinge gave such a loud creak that it woke up Giant Despair, who got up to look for the two men. But just then he felt his limbs fail as he started to fit, so that he could not go to their cell. Christian and Hopeful now escaped back to the highway. And then they came to a place called the Delectable Mountains, which the Lord of the Hill owns. And here they saw fruit trees, vines, shrubs, woods and streams, and drank and ate of the grapes. And now there were men at the top of these hills who kept watch on their flocks. And as they stood by the highway, Christian and Hopeful leant on their walking sticks to rest. And while resting, they asked the men, whose names were Knowledge and Experience.
Excuse me, is this the way to the Celestial City?
You are on the right road.
But how far is it?
Truthfully, it is too far for many, except all those who may be able to get there.
But is the way safe?
save for those to whom it will be saved, but the men of sin shall fall.
Is there a place of rest for those that faint on the road?
The Lord of the Hills has instructed us to help all those who come here, whether they are known to us or not. So all the good things of this place are yours.
The men, knowledge and experience, led Christian and Hopeful by the hand to their tents on Emmanuel's ground and invited them to eat. And soon they went to rest for the night. In the morning, the men woke Christian and Hopeful up and took them to a spot where they saw a bright view on all sides. And then they went with them to the top of a high hill, the name of which was Error. It was steep on the far side, and they told them to look down to the foot of it. So Christian and Hopeful looked down, and there they saw some men who had lost their lives by a fall from the top, men who had been made to go astray, for they had put their trust in false guides.
Have you not heard of them?
Yes, I have.
Well, these are they. And to this day, they have not been put into a tomb, but have been left here to warn men to be careful not to come too near to the edge of this hill.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Now, when Christian and Hopeful thought it was time to leave, one of the men gave them directions, and another told them to beware of the flatterer. The next man, called Experience, advised them not to fall asleep on the enchanted ground and bid them Godspeed. At this point, I awoke from my dream. And then I slept again and dreamt once more and saw Christian and Hopeful go down near the foot of these hills, the location of the land of Conceit, which joins the way to Mount Zion by a small lane. And here they met a brisk lady whose name was Ignorance, to whom Christian asked,
Where are you going? And where have you come from?
Yeah.
Sir, I live across the land just over there, and I wish to go to the Celestial City.
But how do you think you'll get in at the gate?
Just as the rest of the world do.
But what have you got to show at the gate that will allow you to enter it?
I know my Lord's will. And I have lived a good life.
A good life.
I pay for all that I have.
She pays for it.
I give tithes. And I give alms. And now I left my own land. For that to which now I go.
But you did not enter through the main gate.
That's right.
You came through a small lane. So I fear that though you may think you've done well, that when the time should come and you will have laid this to your charge, it will be laid to your charge that you are no more than a common thief and you will not be able to get in.
Well, since I don't know you, you stick to the religion of your country, and I will keep to mine. I hope all will be well. And of that gate you talk about, all the world know that it is far from our country, and there is not a man that knows the way to it. As a matter of fact, I don't see the need for them to know, since we have, as you see, a fine green lane at the next turn that lead to the next part of our world.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, when Christian saw that the woman was wise in her own conceit, he whispered,
There is more hope in a fool than in her.
Yeah, I think we need to just get on our way and come back when she understands, yeah?
So they went on, and Ignorance followed in their steps a little way behind. until they saw a road branch off from the one they were in, and they did not know which of the two to take. As they were thinking about it, a man who was dressed in a white robe came up to them, and he asked,
Greetings, friends.
Oh, greetings. How are you doing?
Why are you standing here?
Good question. We're on our way to the Celestial City, and we're not quite sure which of the two roads to take.
Never mind. Come, for I am on my way there too.
And before long, Christian and Hopeful were both caught in a net and did not know what to do. And with that, the white robe fell off the man's back, and then they saw where they were. So they sat there and they wept.
Oh my, this is not the right way. Oh my gosh, who is that guy anyway?
Didn't one of the two men who guard their sheep tell us to watch out in case the flatterer sets a snare on us?
Yes, they gave us the directions of the way, but we didn't read it. And now we've left the path.
Consequently, they lay in the net and began to weep and wail. At last they saw an angel come up to them with a fine cord in her hand. The angel asked,
Where are you from, and what are you doing here?
We wish to go to Zion.
Yeah, but we were led out of the way by a man wearing a white cloak he was going the same place, and he said we should follow him.
Oh no, that is Flatterer, a false apostle that has transformed himself into an angel of light.
Oh, I knew it. You knew it.
You're welcome. Come with me, that I may set you on the right path once more. Where were you last night?
Well, we basically saw these two men watching these sheep, so we were talking to them and they looked after us for the night.
Very bad way of doing things. You should have read the note that was given to you at the crossroads.
Yeah, sadly we forgot.
Oh no.
After a while, they came to a country where the air naturally tended to make one drowsy if you were a stranger to it. And here, Hopeful began to feel very sleepy, and he could hardly keep his eyes open.
Let's lie down here and take a nap.
No, we mustn't. We mustn't, in case we sleep and never wake up.
No. Sleep is good for a man who spent the day in toil.
No, but don't you remember? The shepherds warned us to take care of the enchanted ground. They said we should be careful not to sleep like others do. So let's watch and be sober.
I see that you're right and I'm wrong. If you weren't here, I would be sleeping now, running the danger of death. And the wise man is right when he said two are better than one.
Now then, to prevent drowsiness in this place, let us engage in good conversation as we go.
Okay.
So tell me, how did you decide to do as you do now?
What do you mean, how I came to think about the good of my soul? Well, for a long time things were seen and sold at Vanity Square, had their attraction, and they were a great joy to me. Things which, as I believe now, would have, had I continued, would have drowned me in perdition and destruction.
What things do you mean?
Well, all the riches of the world. I also love rioting and reveling and drinking and swearing and uncleanliness and Sabbath breaking and whatnot. All of those things that tended to destroy the soul. But I found at last, by hearing and considering the things that are divine, which I heard from you and also beloved faithful, who was put to death for his faith and good living in Vanity Fair, that the end of these things is death, and that these things incur the wrath of God who disobey him.
And did you immediately fall under the power of conviction?
No, not immediately. I wasn't willing to acknowledge the evil of my sin, nor the damnation that comes with it, but tried to shut my eyes against the light.
But what was the cause of your delay in accepting the first workings of God's blessed and Holy Spirit upon you?
Well, I was ignorant that this was the work of God upon me. I never thought that by awareness of sin is how God first begins the conversion of a sinner. Secondly, sin was still very sweet to my flesh, and I was reluctant to leave it. In addition, I could not bear to part with my old companions. Their presence and actions were so desirable to me. And lastly, the hours in which conviction came on me was such a troublesome and heart-frightening that I cannot bear it, not even so much as to think of them now.
Then it seems you finally got rid of your trouble.
Yes, eventually.
And could you at any time easily get rid of the guilt of sin?
No, not lately, for then they prick my conscience more often, and then if I did think of going back to sin, though my mind was turned against it, it would be a double torment to me.
Okay, what did you do then?
Well, I thought I must try to mend my life, or else I thought I'm sure to be damned.
And did you try to mend?
Yes, I fled from not only my sins, but sinful company too, and undertook my religious duties, such as praying and reading and weeping for sin and speaking truth to my neighbors and so on.
And did you think of yourself well then?
Well, yes, for a while, but then my troubles came tumbling down on me again in spite of all the changes I made.
How did you come about since you're now a reformed character?
There were several things that brought it upon me, especially saying such as, all of my righteousness is as filthy rags, and by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. Then I remembered what Faithful told me, that unless I could obtain the righteousness of a man that had never sinned, neither mine own nor all the righteousness of the world could save me.
But did you think when at first he suggested it to you that there was such a man to be found, of whom it might be honestly said that he never committed any sin?
I must confess at first I didn't believe it, but after a little more talk and company with him, I had full conviction about it.
And did you ask what man this was, and how you must be justified by him?
Yes. And he told me it was the Lord Jesus that dwells on the right hand of the Most High.
Amen.
And so he said, you must be justified by him, even by trusting what he has done by himself in the flesh and suffering when he did hang on the tree.
Yes.
I asked him further, how could that man's righteousness effectively justify another before God? And he told me he was the mighty God, and he did what he did and died the death also, not for himself but for me, to whom his doings and worthiness of them should be imputed. If I believed on him.
And what did you do then?
I told him that I did not know how or what to say when I came. And he told me something to this effect. God, be merciful to me, a sinner. and make me to know and believe in Jesus Christ. For I see that his righteousness had not been, or have not I faith in that righteousness, I am utterly cast away. Lord, I have heard that you are a merciful God, and have ordained that your Son Jesus Christ should be the Savior of the world. Hallelujah. And moreover, that you are willing to bestow him upon such a poor sinner as I am. And I am a sinner indeed. Lord, take this opportunity to magnify your grace and the salvation of my soul through your Son Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
And so I continued praying until the Father showed me his Son.
Wonderful, wonderful.
They continued to talk like this as they went on their way. And then I saw in my dream that by this time, Christian and Hopeful had got through the enchanted ground and had come to the land of Beulah, where the air is sweet. And as they went through this land, they did not hurry to leave it. For here they heard the birds sing all day long. The sun shone day and night. It was out of the reach of giant despair, nor could they so much as see Doubting Castle from this place. Now they were in sight of Zion. They had a good view of this land of bliss, and they wept, for their joy was overwhelming. At long last, step by step, they came near to Zion and saw the majestic gates. A man stood in the way.
Just over the mountains in the
is your parchment scroll, that I may know that you have come by the right way?
What scroll? I didn't know that I needed one.
Trying to tell you.
This must be a mistake.
Show Angel.
Welcome, welcome, pilgrims. You have arrived at the gates of the celestial city,
Amen.
the place of eternal bliss. Its beauty and its glory are inexpressible. But here, you shall not see the things that you saw upon the earth. They shall not see death, affliction, misery, sickness, no suffering of any kind. For all these former things are passed away. Nevertheless, you must reap what you have sown. You must receive comfort for all your toil and joy for all your sorrow. These will be the rewards for all the indignities you have borne and all the prayers you have made in the name of the Lord along your dangerous journey. Welcome! These pilgrims have come from the city of destruction for the love they bear for the King of this place. Let the gates be open so that they may enter and look at the Redeemer in the face with joy.
And just as the gates were open, I looked in, and I had a glimpse of Zion, and behold, the city shone like the very sun. The gates were paved with gold, and in them walked many men with crowns on their heads and golden harps in their hands. And then I heard all the bells of the city ringing for joy. And now when Christian and Hopeful went in at the gate, a great change took place in them, and they were clothed in robes that shone like gold. And trumpeters made melodious noises, so loud that even the heaven echoed with their sound. A company of heavenly hosts sang a hymn of praise to the divine Lord. And after all I had seen, I too wished that I could enter in. But behold, it was all a dream.
Everybody together.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. For the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. For the Lord God
I mean, give them another big round of applause.